Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for taking a few minutes out of your day to stop on by and listen to me rant and waffle about Battlefleet Gothic Armada 2 a little bit more. Now in this video we're going to be talking and tackling the subject of Escorts. I'm going to be talking at length about how they change the game and how your decision making process for engagements and fights should still be based on your Escorts. Now this might sound a little bit counterintuitive and a little bit unproductive, but this really comes from a few philosophies that are taken from chess, where those little pawns that don't really seem like they do much actually have a very, very big impact on the game. Now, to start off with, I want to take one fundamental rule that is normally a given within chess, and that is a little bit of extra trouble to take a pawn, or an escort in this case, is worthwhile. What you'll see me doing in numerous battles during the streams is take a few moments to delay the primary engagement and divert my whole fleet to kill two escorts that are taking a point further in the distance. Now this might seem like a weird thing to do because those two ships don't have a lot of value. I could be shooting his main stuff, yeah, that would be awesome. However, playing for the long game is what's going to get you more W's in this. It's what's going to get you more wins. Taking a bit of time to get free kills on positions, or ships rather, that are positioned poorly within the game is really, really worth doing. Even if you sacrifice the overall map control for a little while, those extra couple of ships are going to allow you to get more map control in the long run. So the points gathered as well from killing them will also help mitigate somewhat if you're not getting as many points. But I would always consider taking a little bit of time when it's safe to take out a couple of free tiny weeny ships and even chase them down. Heck, I would even go so far as saying, within quite a few of the fights and engagements, against many of the factions even, I would set the escorts as priority number one, especially when you're playing as a stealthy rogue style fleet. Kill the escorts first and then you have free reign to kill your opponents, because they can't see you, so how are they going to fight you? Now moving on to the next. And this is one of the most important pieces of information I feel I could impart to you within this video regarding escorts. And this again is a principle taken through the management of pawns within chess. And this is that you should trade pieces or trade battles when your structure, your pawn or your escort structure, is healthier than your opponent. Now let me just rephrase that so it makes more sense. If you've got more escorts than your opponents, better positioned around the map to take the capture points, etc., and your two fleets seem like they're just going to butt heads and it's going to be really narrow as to which one comes out on top, you should take that fight. Because what you'll notice is that even if you just lose by a little bit, you'll probably still win the game because you'll have accumulated enough points through the objectives and you'll have enough escorts left in the long run in order to take the victory. If it's not a favourable fight, having more escorts is not a good excuse to take it. If it's not a favourable fight, it's not a good excuse to take fights just because you've got all the points. Only go for this if it's an even fight. If you think this is going to be a really scrappy fight and you're not sure whether you should take it or not, go for it. If you have better positioning on the map and better control, because it will likely result in a win in either case. If it's going to be a poor engagement, don't take it anyway. That's pretty much a given. If you're going for a fight that you're going to lose, the amount of points they'll get just from killing your ships is going to more than compensate for their lack of map control. And then they're just going to go and take the points back. So again, this rule, guys, to take it trades. I call it a trade because you're basically, most of the two fleets are going to die. Take these trades when you have better control. Now next, and the final couple of tips we have regarding the escort managements are, if you're against a stealthy opponent, your playstyle with your escorts will change dramatically compared to if they're not stealthy. So if you're against an orc and you know where every single enemy ship is, that's pretty fine. That's pretty fine. You know exactly where all of his ships are from the beginning. You can work on identifying them, then you can just thruster the hell away from them, and then you can focus on what I would say doing a passed pawn strategy, and this is where you would push your pawn to go become a queen. But in this situation, what you do is you take your pawns, your escorts, and move them sort of, you'd go wide with them, you'd send them past the opponent, and you try and get them into a position where you can start decapping the enemy points, or even keep one adjacent to your point so you can recapture it if need be. Do remember as well, just dipping in and out of a point that's being decapped by an enemy does reset the process, so you can also use that to do a little bit of trolling, which is quite fun. But it's also It is also, I guess, a technical tool to use. So again, when you know where everything is on an enemy fleet, Let's say even against Tyranids, if you have already identified them, you know where they are, get those escorts doing something productive. Now, it is certainly true that for something like your Orc escorts, doing some extra DPS is probably a good investment, and there will be some situations, if you've got a few of them, where doing the extra damage will be worthwhile. But generally speaking, I find pushing the capture points more useful. Now that's fine if you're playing against an opponent where you know where they are. If you're playing against an opponent and you don't know where they are, you should not put yourself in a position where they can kill your escorts for free. Do not split up your forces against a stealthy opponent, especially in the beginning of the game, especially when you don't have a clue where they are. Maybe use an escort to capture a point that's very close to you, maybe take a couple of them to do it very quickly and then join with your main force. That's maybe a viable strategy. However, if your escorts are basically a long way from your fleet, you are in a little bit of trouble. There is a couple of exceptions to this, and this is where maybe you see a point being captured, so I'd maybe quickly rush towards it to scan them to see what's there, because you know what's there already, or rather you know there's ships there, and more importantly, if it's halfway to being captured, they're probably not going to chase you. They still could. If there's 3 ships, they might send 2 of them. But always try and keep your escorts in a position of safety, and this also applies to fights. Move forward slightly outside of your fleet's range, perform your scan ability, and then come back. Do not leave your escorts hanging on the edge of your formation. As soon as they've done that ability, press that Q button, use a thruster, and get them behind your ships again. Get them to a position of safety. This is pretty hard to micromanage sort of 5 different escorts at once, but it is something really, really important to do. If you leave them hanging, especially against a Dark Elder, they will kill them, and then you will have no vision to detect them. If you keep 4 escorts alive, you can have more or less constant uptime on the scan ability, and it's always a good idea as well to keep a couple of these scans and escorts in a safe location, just behind or the opposite side of your main fleet to where you think the enemy will be, and then, once you've seen them start shooting, move toward, reveal them, and then move back. That way you know the scan is going to be appropriately used. But once again, guys, when you're playing against factions where you know when the enemy is, or where the enemy is, it should completely change how you view and utilize your escorts. If you know the enemy is, let's say he's Mechanicus and he's not going silent running, you can see 6 ships at the start, great. You can go forward, identify, and then you can be pushing very wide with these escorts. If you don't know where the enemy is, you've got no intel, you want to be really pulling them back, because in that situation they're your most valuable asset by a mile. Guys, I hope this has been useful. It's just a little bit of, let's say, tactical advice. I'm working on doing some other videos too for, let's say, the entry level stuff, so just talking through buttons, abilities, how to use it, where to use it. Once again, you've been listening to Esik Hydra. I'd like to thank you all for stopping on by. I truly love this game, and I hope it gets more coverage, and I hope it maintains this fantastic player base. You're all fantastic. See you next time.